Alrighty, let's get into this. So, all you can say about the 2300 evenings and mornings in Daniel 8 would be, if you were to consult the commentaries and do a survey of many of them, many people just take it for granted that it's Antiochus Epiphanes. This is not sustainable. And I would also point out that another problem with that is this. As far as the relationship between Daniel 8 and 9 and the other chapters of Daniel, because of the repeated language and the timelines people invent, a lot of assumptions are easy to make. And a lot of biases are easy to have be blinding you. And wanting to refute other positions. This is very interesting because if you try to stick to a very specific hermeneutic, it's difficult because you don't even see or realize where you're not being consistent. And this goes for everyone. So I just want to point out a few interesting reasons why you almost, in my mind, I almost can't trust anybody to give me any actually honest feedback on this matter because they're so sure they know something they don't actually know. That they're just chomping at the bit to disprove my position. But someone's going to come along and look at it honestly. The thing is, I'm going to read this. We'll go start there. Okay. Oh, I wanted to read the text first. Hold on. Oh, I've got slides for that. Okay. Let's do this. Be patient here. Start with the reading the text. Here it is. So I set this up to kind of go through this. I'm going to read it. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar. Of course, this is Daniel 7 is before this, which is a recapitulation of Daniel 2, which is the dream and the narrative of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, which we find out of the kingdoms, Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, Babylon, the next kingdom, which is Medo Persia, then Greece, and then Rome. And now we're in chapter 8. We've learned that, and then it adds on at the end a little bit more, and we go into Daniel 9, which is the famous 70 weeks prophecy. So we've established the kingdoms. I think I can actually show a slide of that as well. Something like, let's see. Where's my statue guy? I guess I don't have one for this. Maybe there's a little picture here. Let's see. There's that little king. So yeah, okay. This shows the different views, kind of on a layout of the timeline of the biblical calendar or history. Historicism would encompass the interpretation of Daniel and Revelation that encompasses that whole square period, while preterism would be simply cramming it all into the interpretation of just until the cross period, which makes sense in some ways. And of course, futurism, you have parts of it, boom, right there at the end, but nothing in the middle. It kind of gives you a visual on that. The only view that actually has the prophecies consistently being interpreted a day for a year and God not leaving us absolutely vacant through the Christian period, when salvation has come to the whole world through Christ. It seems kind of weird that there'd be no prophecy on that, just on other stuff. That's a type for Christianity, and Christianity being the fullness of the faith. Think about that. If you actually stop and think about that for a minute, it's a really good reason to consider historicism. Not to mention we have actual provable evidence for that in history that actually continues on in this pattern of Daniel receiving this vision of one kingdom after the other up until Christ's kingdom is established, or that he establishes salvation, brings a new covenant, and then it predicts all the things that Rome would do up until Christ's coming, including the cleansing of the sanctuary, and then Christ's soon return. What do you know? But can't make somebody believe something. You only tell them about it the best you can. Let's see. Okay. looking at the text. So Daniel has this vision. Comes to pass when I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw it in a vision. So we got two vision twice here. I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other. This is the Medes and the Persians. The one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. And no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. So the ram, the goat with two horns represents the Medes and the Persians, which take over from Babylon. After that, the little horn, or the he-goat with the horn, is Greece. A single horn representing Alexander the Great. They get split into four kingdoms: Seleucids, Ptolemy, all those four, and then Rome rises out of that. It's an interesting story, but watch my Daniel 8, my last Daniel 8 sermon I played. He goes into that. So let's continue pointing out where the word vision is. Okay, we're getting to this daily sacrifice. Okay. Let me back up. And I saw him come close to the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. He was angry, smote the ram. This is the he-goat, which represents Greece, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast it down to the ground, and he stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Alexander just took it over for the Greece. Okay. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and then when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Alexander died. And for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even unto the host of heaven. And he cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. And he magnified himself even unto the prince of the host. That phrase there has to do with Christ. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. Sacrifice is not in the original Hebrew, but it does seem to have association with the Talmud. The morning and evening sacrifices seem to be in view. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Who's he? I would say Christ was cast down. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. See, I believe that's talking about a power that does that to the New Testament, to the New Covenant. But we'll get back to that. Then I heard one saint speaking to another saint and said, to that certain saint, how long shall the vision concerning the daily and this is important, and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? How long shall the vision, how long for this vision of this daily, how long until this sacrifice of the daily being taken away will it be? Trodden underfoot. And he said unto me, 2,300 ereb boqer days, evenings and mornings. Okay, if it's a literal translation, we would have evening and mornings. You might not realize it there. They chose days for a reason, because it's rendered. And speaking of something associated with these types of sacrifices that were the morning and evening sacrifices, only in the Hebrew it says evening, morning. That's strange. The King James put it days for a reason, because that's what a day is, ereb boqer, evening, morning. So these 2,300 days are associated with the sacrifices for the people in the morning and in the evening, constantly, continually, with the temple, okay, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. It's looking to the end. How long will this be trampled on? So he asks it to know when it's going to be over, and the answer is giving an indication of its ending. Unto 2,300 days, then shall it be cleansed. Sometime after that, okay. And it should come to pass that when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me an appearance of a man. Now, this is important. When we look at this in the Hebrew, it's switching context here. Every time we've seen the word vision, it's kazon. He asks about the end of it. He's told about the end of it. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. This is all the kazon. And it came to pass when I, Daniel, had seen the kazon, everything to this point is the kazon. Now, and sought for its meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. The appearance is now introducing a new term, mare. It's no longer talking about the kazon, which is that the term for vision has been up until this point. And guess what? The next word that's vision is not kazon. So he's going to this new thing that's been brought up. This new word hasn't been used yet as vision, and you wouldn't know that in English. Right here, this next one, appearance. That's mare. That's mare. Everything else, vision, the 6 times or whatever before this, were all kazon. Now it's switching. Hey, there was an appearance of a man, and it's mare. And then he starts hearing him talk. And now the term vision is not the same term that we've been seeing in the text the whole time. It's mare, which is the same word for appearance. That's important. Because he said, unto the end, unto 2,300 days. And so now this is bringing up a new thing. And he heard the voice, and they heard one say to the other, make him understand the mare, not this other vision, not the kazon. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. And he said unto me, understand, O man, for at the time of the end shall be the kazon, the one that they were talking about before. So this 2,300 days, when the sanctuary is cleansed, is for the time of the end. The kazon is for the time of the end. He's going to say it again in another verse. But this new thing that's introduced that you wouldn't even see in the English, he's brought up this other thing. Make this man understand the vision. The one he's telling him to make him understand is this mare, not the kazon. In verse 17, it brings up the kazon again and tells you that vision, which you wouldn't even know is a different vision in the English, is actually referring back to verse 14, as well as in the first mention of verse 15. He's talking about the entire vision he's been having, the kazon. But more specifically, what was said in verse 13 that's associated with in the vision in verse 13 and then in 15 are both kazon and kazon. It's regarding the 2,300 days, which says, then the sanctuary, that's when the sanctuary is cleansed. Then this new mare idea thing is brought up. It's a different thing. And the guys in the vision, the angels or the man and the Gabriel, whoever you want to say it is, he says to the other, make this man understand not the vision of the kazon, which you've been reading about up to this point, but the mare. It's very important because it's not the same word. And then when we go to verse 17, the vision here, and I'm going to demonstrate this in a second, is telling you that kazon vision, that's for the time of the end. That's when the sanctuary is cleansed, at the time of the end. So let's show that. It's interesting here in verse 26 because it's actually mentioned as the mare of the evenings and mornings. But hey, wait, I thought the kazon was associated with that. That's important too. Why? Because it's a piece of the kazon. The mare is actually ends up being a piece of the first part of the kazon, because that's where you start the timer. The mare is cut off from the kazon. They're one vision inside the other. And that's how you get the starting point. And it tells you very clearly, because the same vision in Daniel 11 gets related back to this. And that's for the time of the end. And the time of the end is when is the end of time. which is where we're at right now. So let's look at what these words are.